Oh boy, this one is gonna be a doozy. It's time to talk about another Megadeth album, which is, of course, Risk. And it definitely was a risk for Megadeth because they decided to go the Metallica route by doing some mainstream rock and roll instead of their usual thrash metal. We all know how that went with Metallica from their mainstream era. We got 3 albums from their era, which of course were the Black Album, Load, and Reload, and only one of those albums was actually good. In fact, this album, the Black Album, is my favorite album of all time, period, and is a perfect album in my opinion. So yeah, this album, Risk, by Megadeth, is literally the dollar store version of the Black Album. And if you think that's a coincidence, that's far from it. It can't be a coincidence. Look at this. The Black Album has 12 songs. Risk also has 12 songs. And both of these albums barely have elements of thrash metal. The Black Album has songs like Struggle Within and of course Holier Than Thou. Those are thrash metal songs. While Risk has 2 thrash metal songs, which are of course the last 2 tracks, which are Time the Beginning and Time the End. And spoiler, those are the only 2 good tracks on this album that are actually really good, with Insomnia being rather okay. Yeah, this album was a doozy to listen to. A lot of the tracks on this album were mediocre. Which, with the songs that are being mediocre were Prince of Darkness, pretty terrible name by the way. Enter the Arena, which should have been part of Crush 'Em. And speaking of Crush 'Em, Crush 'Em was insufferable. Crush 'Em for some reason had a crowd chant in it, and I don't know why. Think of one Megadeth song, besides Crush 'Em, that has a crowd chant. Really the only song that I could think of that has a crowd chant that's similar to kind of like a crowd chant. Like the closest thing is Peace Sells. And that song doesn't even have a crowd chant. That's really the closest song I could think of that is similar to Crush 'Em. Breadline was also mediocre. The Doctor Was Calling I did want to like, but it had a good start to it, but then ended up falling flat as it got closer to the end, which was also mediocre. I'll Be There, mediocre. Wanderlust, mediocre. Track 9, I can't say the name because I don't want my video to get taken down. It's the name of the track is an illegal drug. It's an illegal drug, so I'll just refer to it as Track 9. And for some reason, a lot of Megadeth fans like Track 9 of this album. I did not like Track 9. Track 9 was insufferable too. Track 9 was just straight up boring and was not good. And track 10-7 was mediocre too. So really the only songs that were somewhat okay or actually really good were Insomnia, Time the Beginning, and Time the End. Which, another problem with this album is that there were some missed opportunities with two songs being combined. Enter the Arena and Crush 'Em should have been one song. I know that Enter the Arena is a transition track, but it's a pretty bad transition track. It felt really useless. And Time to Begin and Time the End should have been combined, even though they're the 2 best songs off the album. So yeah, the listening experience was pretty bad off this album, I will say. I did not like this album. the more I think about it, the more I feel like that Megadeth was trying to copy the Black Album and how good it was. While this album was a complete failure. I did do research on this album a little bit, and they were trying to do something similar to the Black Album. So yeah, unoriginal, most of the songs being absolutely garbage. And the last two tracks, Time the Beginning and Time the End, are really what's saving this album from being absolutely garbage. This album became, if this album didn't have the last two tracks, then I would have given it a 1. But because of the last two tracks off this album, that's why I am going to give this album a 3 out of 10. I am really hoping that The World Needs a Hero is a good album, which I've listened to 4 out of the 12 tracks, and so far it is pretty good. I will say it's relatively okay, yeah. But as soon as I finish this album, I'll tell you my thoughts and feelings about this album. So, anyways, I guess I'll see you guys later. Bye bye. Man, this was absolutely awful. This might have been even worse than Saint Anger, I will say. And that is something that a thrash metal band does not want to accomplish.